hello, my dear. So glad you could join me again. I know. The hustle and bustle of the holiday season is quite a lot to bear. But I'm so happy you would spend a little bit of your time relaxing with me. Oh, what's that? Oh, well, I'm feeling a little holly and jolly myself. I have the tea kettle on and, well, the fire is roaring, so please have a seat in my favorite chair. I've picked out a eerie one for you. You know, this holiday is full of merry cheer, but it's also a holiday of ghosts and premonitions and of secrets. So now I want to share not exactly a holiday memory, but a memory of a murder.
And now, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense. In a moment, Act One of Memory of a Murder, starring Philip Sterling as Harry Jonas and written especially for Suspense by John Robert. This first portion of Suspense is brought to you by the makers of Alpine cigarettes. What's it like to smoke an Alpine? Well, it's like many fresh little things that please you. It's like the stirring of leaves when a breeze comes up. Like a weather vane turning in a summer sky. The way the air feels in the morning when you open the door to get the paper. That's what it's like to smoke an Alpine. Alpine is nothing at all like the sort of smoking you may be used to. Alpine is a fresh, freewheeling kind of smoke. A bright, bracing, even invigorating kind of taste. If this sounds good to you, try Alpine filter cigarettes.
There's something more to smoking with an Alpine cigarette.
I let my thoughts project once. It was while I was sitting on a bench in Cumberland Park. I saw a scene suspended in time. I saw it, just me and nobody else, like I was getting a sneak preview of something yet to happen, or maybe something that had already happened. An old scene that keeps wandering in space because it never found its place in time. In the scene, there's a young guy screaming. A scream of terror. The scream of a man looking into the face of his murderer. It's in Wingate Cemetery. In the scene, I'm hiding behind a tombstone, watching Gravedigger working away by lantern light. There's a body on the ground. A young man, blue in the face where the moon touches his cheeks, and very dead. The digging stops, and soon the earth is restored. The digger is a tall man with sunken cheeks like deep holes in his face. The last thing he does is pick up an object that looks like it might have fallen from the corpse's pocket. He examines it, then heaves it in the direction of my hiding place. It hits the tombstone I'm hiding behind. When I can, I pick it up. It's in metal, the size of a $50. There's an engraving on it, Queen Isabella of Spain, and the words Buen Éxito, meaning good luck in Spanish. Then I lose the digger. The following day, I find him again. I find him on a colored poster nailed against the wall of the Pageant Theater. There was his picture. A tall man with sunken cheeks wearing a flowing black cape. The poster read, Constantine, Prince of Illusion, assisted by the beautiful Marietta. Constantine, Prince of Illusion was a vaudeville act. There was a guy outside the theater nailing up a sign. Man wanted, it read, apply inside. I applied outside. I'll take that job, mister.
What? You don't even know what the job is.
I'm adaptable. I learn fast.
It's sweeping floors.
Well, I'm a whiz with a broom.
It's troubleshooting backstage. If a wire shorts or a fire starts...
I've been handling trouble since I was born.
What's your name?
Harry Jonas.
All right, I'm Charlie Prince, the theater manager. Okay, Harry, looks like you've got the job.
Well, maybe a better way to put it, Mr. Prince. The job's got me. The job did have me. I saw to the floors, changed fuses when they blew, and announced the acts from 1 p.m. to closing. Closing was Constantine, Prince of Illusion, assisted by a beautiful blonde named Marietta, and an old lady, Anna, kind of a wardrobe mistress to Marietta. Constantine's act was the one the audience really paid to see. It was straight terror. The regular routine of sawing Marietta in half, knife throwing, setting her on fire, with a new wrinkle for a smash finish. The guillotine. Marietta stuck her head on a chopping block, and an overhead knife came slicing down. The head rolled.
It makes you sick?
What? What'd you say?
I say Constantine's act with the guillotine makes you sick.
It was old Anna, the woman who got Marietta in and out of her costumes. Yeah, it looks so real. It gave me the shivers. Even knowing it's phony,
I know. Always you are afraid for Marietta. Like Nino always was afraid for her.
Who's Nino?
Nino stood here in the wings like you, sick for Marietta.
I asked you, who's Nino?
You have his job now. And you have his medal.
What? I have his what?
Nino's medal. With the face of Queen Isabella.
What?
I saw it in your hand today. A lucky medal for most. But for Nino, very unlucky. It is one of a kind. Take care not to lose it.
Anna, wait! Take care never to lose the Isabella medal, Anna had said. One of a kind. Well, there was a lot I didn't know. When I got him alone, I asked Charlie Prince, the theater manager, a few questions. Hey, what happened to my predecessor here, Nino, the guy whose job I've got now?
He skidooed.
What do you mean, he skidooed?
Quit. He got an advance on his pay, then beat it without notice. Just disappeared.
Why would he do that?
Constantine. Nino and Marietta were sweet on each other, and Constantine was pretty jealous. As a tip for you on how to hold your job here.
And stay away from Marietta, huh?
You get the idea, Harry. You get the idea.
But I didn't stay away from Marietta. Even if I had wanted to, I couldn't. I joined Marietta in her dressing room an hour before the theater opened. Got something I have to show you, Marietta. The lady on it is Queen Isabella.
Nino's medal.
That's right. Nino's medal.
Where'd you get it?
I found it. Been lying about where to everybody, but I'll tell you. I found it in Wingate Cemetery.
And Nino?
He's dead.
Constantine killed him. I knew Constantine would kill him.
I only saw Constantine bury him. Why would Constantine kill Nino?
Because he was insanely jealous of Nino.
Jealous enough to commit murder?
You don't know Constantine.
Are you involved somewhere?
Yes. Yes, and Constantine will see to it that I'm blamed for the murder of Nino, along with everything else.
What is everything else?
Robbery. Constantine's not just a paid performer. He's also a master thief.
And Nino was his accomplice?
Yeah.
And you?
And me too.
You're asking me to protect Constantine?
No. Just to protect me.
My reason for protecting you?
It's in your eyes.
You're men, aren't you? I accepted Marietta's story, that Constantine was a master criminal, that her fate was bound up with his fate. I worked at my job and I announced the acts, and Marietta on the chopping block still gave me the shivers. One night, she seemed to hesitate before putting her head on the block as if she was afraid.
See how Marietta is afraid.
Yeah, Anna, she looked scared stiff.
Marietta knows Constantine means to kill her tonight.
In front of 1,000 people, he wouldn't dare.
It will be an accident. Something goes wrong and Marietta is killed. Constantine is very clever.
And I've got to stop him.
It is too late to stop him. See, the knife comes down.
No, wait, stop! Marietta!
As always, a head rolled. If it was phony, it was a perfect illusion. If it was phony. For the first time, there was blood. Blood as real as if Marietta had been beheaded. Was spotted the stage, and Marietta's head rolled, then lay still in the purple light. As the curtain came down, the audience was applauding, so it was only an act.
I went for Constantine's throat. Constantine!
Yes? Oh, what?
You killed Marietta deliberately. It wasn't any accident. You crazy! You won't palm it off as an accident.
Harry, stop.
Marietta. But
You thought I'd really lost my head.
Yeah. All the blood.
Examine it, idiot. Is it really blood?
Oh, no. No, it all seems so real. Even the phony head looked real.
The man's insane. Come on, Marietta. I won't forget that you tried to strangle me, Harry Jonas.
I'd fallen for a perfect illusion. And the phony witch talk of old Anna.
In your mind now, you are blaming Anna for telling you things that are untrue, huh?
Getting me to make a fool of myself. So Constantine was going to kill Marietta tonight, accidentally on purpose.
But yes.
You're not starting that again.
But it is true. It is another accident that Marietta still lives.
One accident canceling out another, huh?
Yes. Mr. Charlie Prince saved Marietta's life.
How?
He moved the guillotine knife just enough away to save Marietta's beautiful head.
I checked Anna's story with Charlie Prince.
Yes, I inspected the guillotine knife and ordered it moved 8 to 10 degrees.
How come you inspected it?
Routine. I do a theater-wide safety check all the time.
But how come you inspected the guillotine knife? One of Constantine's own professional props.
Marietta asked me to. She said the act had her nervous, and could I adjust the position of the knife even if it meant the illusion would lose something. Marietta didn't want to lose her head for love of the act. Oh, Harry, what in the devil are you driving at? Look, Harry, if there's something you think you know...
I don't only think. I know Constantine is a murderer.
What?
I know he murdered the guy whose job I've got, Nino.
Oh!
Well, what's so funny?
You! I just got a wire from Nino. He's in Mexico City having the time of his life. He even wired me the advance money he'd tipped off with. Here, read it for yourself.
It's a phony. Constantine murdered Nino and buried him in Wingate Cemetery.
Oh, Harry, go soak your head somewhere. I like a joke as well as that
Look at
guy, but...
It belonged to Nino. An Isabella medal, one of a kind.
One of a kind, huh? Have a look. I got a mint of them. There was an act here 2 years ago, a gal who billed herself as Isabella, queen of the dance. We handed these medals out to the cash customers as a stunt.
I went to the Wingate Cemetery for another look. It was a stormy night. I found the same tombstone I'd hidden behind before. I found the spot I'd seen Constantine digging at, but no grave. The spot was flat and even, and a patch of grass and flowers were sprouting on it. Ground had never been touched. I got back to the pageant theater an hour before showtime and went looking for Marietta. She was at a dressing table, white-faced and strained and beautiful. Marietta?
Yes, Harry?
The story I told you about Nino, about Constantine burying Nino in Wingate Cemetery and me there watching?
Yes, Harry.
Well, right now there isn't any grave for Nino in Wingate Cemetery. I just came from there. I can't explain it. Can you?
Just that Constantine's clever? He's a master of illusion.
Grandmaster at the rate he's going. Another thing. Charlie Prince says Nino is in Mexico, alive and kicking.
Another of Constantine's tricks?
I guess that just about covers every missing explanation, huh? Did Constantine plan on killing you last night? I want to know, Marietta.
Yes. And tonight again, Constantine plans to kill me.
But he's fixed the guillotine knife back?
No. This time he'll try to take my life in a dagger-throwing act.
And you're waiting for it to happen?
Yes.
Period, huh? You're scheduled to die and you got your shroud all laid out.
I can't do anything about it, Harry. I'm powerless to resist Constantine.
Funny thing, I was in kind of a spell myself. Marietta was scheduled to die, and all I could do was stand in the wings and watch Constantine throw his daggers. The daggers bit into the wooden frame. I watched him hold the last dagger, and I could tell by his face that this was it. That this was the dagger. It was going to be murder by accident. I didn't need old Anna pulling at my sleeve to tell me.
His dagger goes to her heart. Watch.
I couldn't do anything for Marietta if I wanted to. My legs felt nailed to the floor. I saw the dagger aim and go. Marietta screamed before I hit her. Right into her heart. The dagger bit right into her heart. Blood spurted, soaking her costume. I heard the audience applaud as the curtain dropped.
They thought it was all part of the act. I came out of my paralysis and went for Constantine. I pulled a dagger out of the board Marietta was impaled against and went for him. I got behind him and circled my arm around his neck. Constantine, I'm going to kill her! I'll give you what you gave Marietta! No! Don't! I fought. Constantine grabbed for the dagger, twisting my arm and turning the blade around, and me turning the blade into my chest and ripping across and opening it before I could finally strike home.
And then I heard her laugh at me. Marietta? Marietta laughing. The old lady, Anna, over Constantine's body, she was laughing. Both of them, as if some bet they'd made it paid off. I got it finally. I played Patsy and murdered Constantine the way Marietta wanted it. I'd been set up to do it, and I'd done it. Marietta read my eyes and confirmed it.
Yeah, Harry. Yeah, you freed me from Constantine.
The way Constantine freed you from Nino.
Yeah.
But Nino's grave?
I moved the headstone you were hiding behind. You looked in the wrong place.
The dagger in your heart and the blood.
Constantine was a prince of illusion.
No, I'm not buying that anymore. Constantine was clever, sure. But you were the real queen bee of the act. The illusion was your trick. You're the queen mother of illusion.
Yes. The illusion was always my part of the trick.
What happens to me? Or don't you care?
I care a little. Just a very little.
Sure.
Run.
Run?
Escape quickly. It's better to be a fugitive murderer than a captured one. Run, Harry. Run!
I ran. I was weak from loss of blood, but I ran. I got my chest sewed up where Constantine ripped a dagger across it. 40 stitches. And then I kept on running. Right to the cops. But the hitch is, Lieutenant Belson won't let me settle down. He's nibbling at my confession like a guy being fed food too exotic for his taste. 48 hours now, and Belson's still only nibbling.
About your confession of murder, Harry, the story you just told me, you read it somewhere.
I lived it. Look, wasn't the murder of Constantine officially reported?
Yes, it was. It's on the books as an unsolved murder.
Well, then it's solved now.
But it happened in the year 1922, 40 years ago. I've got the paper on it here. There was a vaudeville act called Constantine and Marietta booked into the old pageant theater. Got a record here telling what happened to Marietta. She died in a railroad crash. She's been dead since 1934.
Dead?
The pageant theater was torn down in 1932, 30 years ago. You still insist you were a pawn in the murder of a long-ago vaudevillian named Constantine?
Yes, I do. Look here inside my shirt. I've got 40 stitches and a scar across my chest to prove it.
Yeah. You got a scar, all right. There's a survivor coming in. See if you recognize him. You know this man, Harry?
Yeah, sure. It's Charlie Prince, but he's so old.
40 years older. He was 30 then. He's almost 70 now. Mr. Prince, do you know this man?
Is he the one you told me about, Lieutenant?
Yes, he's the one.
Never saw him before.
Never saw me before, Charlie. You hired me right off the sidewalk. You were nailing up a man wanted sign, and I applied right on the spot.
Yeah? That's how it happened, all right. Way back. The lad came up and had me take down the sign right there. But how could you know about that?
Because I was the lad.
Crazy, son. Crazy as a
What do you
bull.
mean I'm crazy? Why are you both looking at me as if I am crazy?
Harry, it all happened 40 years ago.
Okay, so some things get lost in space. Some things never find their place in time. But it's all true.
Is it? 40 years ago, Harry? How old are you now?
How old?
Don't bother answering. You're closer to your 25th birthday than you are to your 30th.
Well, I don't even give him that much, Lieutenant. I say he's not a minute more than 21.
Face up to it, Harry. You read the story somewhere and made it your own.
Lieutenant, are you sure? Are you really sure it happened like that?
Am I sure? Harry, of course I'm sure. Aren't you?
Suspense. You have been listening to Memory of a Murder, starring Philip Sterling as Harry Jonas, and written especially for Suspense by John Robert. Suspense is produced and directed by Bruno Zerato, Jr., music supervision by Ethel Huber. Heard in tonight's story were Connie Lemke as Marietta, Ralph Bell as Lieutenant Belson, Ethel Everett as Anna, James Monks as Constantine, and Lawson Zerby as Charlie Prince.
A hot cup of tea and a chilling story in your ears. Well, very little can get better than that. What's that? Oh, no. That door unlocks, I assure you. It just won't right now. Anyhow, what say we listen to another one? It's the season of giving, and I feel quite generous. And I'm very thankful of how generous you are with your time, my dear. So, another log on the fire, another kettle on the stove. And let's see if we can learn, with our own 2 ears, 8 individual steps of murder.
Lipton Tea and Lipton Soups present Inner Sanctum Mysteries. Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum. When you heard the sound of the squeaking door, it was exactly 30 seconds past the hour for murder. But don't worry. We won't keep you waiting much longer. Even as I talk to you now, our hero and his victim are standing beside me, wishing I'd dispense with formalities so they can get to more enjoyable pursuits, like murder.
Now, isn't it funny, Mr. Host? I feel the same way in hot weather.
You mean the heat makes you feel murderous? Now, this doesn't sound like our Mary.
Please don't misunderstand me, Mr. Host. I mean the heat makes me want to dispense with formalities so I can get to more enjoyable pursuits, like serving myself and my friends tall, cooling glasses of iced Lipton tea in my backyard under the trees. What grand iced tea Lipton's makes. So gloriously full-bodied, so full of zip. And it's that brisk Lipton flavor that does it. A flavor that's never flat, but always spirited and satisfying. You see, brisk is the word the tea experts themselves use to describe the livelier freshness of Lipton's. And those same tea experts agree that in iced teas, brisk flavor is extra important. That's why, for the best iced tea you ever tasted, you should always insist on Lipton tea. It's good iced because it's brisk in flavor. So keep a frosty pitcher of iced Lipton tea always on hand.
Thank you for those cooling thoughts, Mary. Now into our sizzling thriller, 8 Steps to Murder, written especially for Inner Sanctum by Emil Teppelman. This is the chronicle of a carefully calculated crime. A crime so twisted and subtle that it had to be blueprinted in advance. As Barry Kroger, in the role of Mark Durfee, the newspaper columnist, tells his story, we shall watch this crime develop, step by step. 8 steps to murder.
When I decided to kill Basil Archer, I went about it like an architect, laying out the plans for a complicated building project. Only a fool leaves the details of such an undertaking to chance. I calculated every risk. I weighed every possibility of failure. I blueprinted each of the 8 necessary steps I had to take. My first step was to get a suitable weapon. I went on Monday morning to the office of a pawnbroker I knew on 48th Street.
Good morning, my friend.
How are you, Mr. Krug?
Come in, Mr. Durfee.
Thank you.
You know what I want? Indeed, yes. I have it here, exactly what you need. It's fully loaded. You can spin the barrel and see for yourself.
Mm-hmm. It's a nice revolver. Looks a little awkward.
Well, you said you wanted it with the silencer attached.
Yes. How much for this, Mr. Krug?
$250.
What?
That is the price, Mr. Durfee. You know, it's against the law to sell these.
Well, yes, but $250.
You will pay it, Mr. Duffy.
Wow. All right. You know what I want this gun for.
But naturally.
You know I'm planning to kill someone with it.
But naturally. Otherwise, would you want a silencer on it?
You wouldn't be above a little honest blackmail, would you, Mr. Krug?
Please, do not point that gun at me. It is loaded.
I know that.
What are you going to do?
I regret this, Mr. Krug. I'm going to have to kill you.
No, I swear to you.
Save it.
You will be sorry for this. You will make a mistake. You will make a slip.
There'll be no mistake.
There will. You cannot think of everything.
I have thought of everything. This is the first thing.
Oh. You cannot think of everything.
I left Krug's body where it lay and put the silenced revolver in my inside pocket and stepped out into the air. I stopped, stock still. The rain suddenly coming down in buckets. I hadn't counted on it starting to rain. My alibi for Krug's killing was carefully planned. Everybody at my hotel thought I was still in my room, sleeping off a binge. But carefully staged a drinking spree last night. But if my clothes were wet, they'd know I'd been out this morning.
You cannot think of everything. You cannot think of everything.
I hurried back to my hotel, walking in the rain. It was too dangerous to take a cab. I sneaked in the service entrance, the way I'd come out, and walked up the one flight of stairs. As soon as I got in my room, I took off my clothes, dropped them all in the bathtub, and started the shower going. And then I went to bed. About noontime, when the phone rang, I knew it was the clerk downstairs calling, because I'd left a call for 12. I let the phone ring. That was step number 2. A few minutes later, just as I expected, Ryan, the house detective, let himself into the room with his pass key. I pretended to be asleep, dead to the world.
All the cockeyed shenanigans. Lord, what a load he must have taken on last night.
I heard Ryan go into the bathroom where the shower was still running, and then come out, muttering, and approach the bed.
Wake up, Mr. Duffy.
What? Oh, my head.
Oh, you must have been as high as a kite last night.
Oh.
You undressed in the shower. Left all your clothes in the bathtub. They're soaking wet.
I was safe. My tracks were completely covered. This was Monday afternoon. According to my schedule, Basil Archer was to die on Friday evening at 10 o'clock sharp. I was now free to take step 3 in my blueprint for murder. For this purpose, I went to Basil Archer's office. He was a theatrical producer, you see. His office was upstairs over the famous old fantasy theater, where Archer's new play was to open on Friday evening. As I opened the door of Basil Archer's office, I was quite cool. I'd rehearsed myself well. Basil was seated at his desk talking to Gregory Sutherland, the young and handsome author of the new play.
Hello there, Mark. Glad to see you.
Hi, Basil. Just dropped in to get a line on the new play.
You know Greg Sutherland, the author?
Sure.
Greg, this is Mark Duffy.
We've met.
I tell you, Mark, Storm Over the Highlands is going to be the biggest hit of the season. Greg's written a fine play.
I'm glad to hear that, Basil. Ought to go over big, especially with your wife doing the lead. Nina's a great actress.
Confidentially, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing Storm Over the Highlands. Just suited for Nina.
Nina will be wonderful. Oh, I guess she likes working with you, Mr. Sutherland. It's always a good idea for the author and the star of a play to work together.
Oh? Have you and Nina been working together, Greg?
Well, yes, Mr. Archer. We sort of thought if we could exchange ideas.
I never saw two people put their heart and soul into a job like Nina and Sutherland here. They spend every minute they can together.
Now, look here, Durfee, I don't like the way you said that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sutherland. You know I didn't mean anything. It's only what people are saying, seeing you both together so much.
What's this all about, Mark? This is the first I've heard of anything.
Oh, forget it, Basil. Oh, by the way, here's a package. I want to give it to Nino on opening night. I wonder if you put it in your safe for me till Friday.
Why, sure, if you want me to. I'll put it here, on the bottom shelf, next to the payroll money. Come in Friday evening during the first intermission, and I'll get it out for you.
Fine. Are those all packages of money on the bottom shelf?
Yes, over 100,000 in there. Receipts from my other shows. Here you are, Mark. All safely locked up. What kind of a present is it?
I'd rather keep that a secret till Friday. From Archer's office, I went straight to his apartment. I knew Nina would be home, and it was important that I talk to her now.
Hello, Mark. I've been wondering if you'd come today.
I told you I would, Nina.
I've waited so long.
Darling.
Oh, Mark, how long will it be now? How much longer?
Only till Friday, darling. After Friday, you'll be free of him forever.
And then you and I...
There's work to do first. This is only the fourth step. There are 4 more to go. Everything's working according to schedule. The next step is up to you.
What must I do, Mark?
Oh, I've started the ball rolling. Basil's beginning to worry about you and Sutherland. He's got to be encouraged to suspect as much as possible. You've got to be seen around with Sutherland as frequently as you can.
Oh, that'll be easy. Sutherland's hardly more than a kid. He worships the ground I walk on. But I'd rather be with you, darling.
It's 5 days more, Nina. And then we can be together. Always. Outside Nina's house, I stopped for a moment with a queer sensation in the pit of my stomach. It was raining again. It reminded me of Mr. Krug.
You can't think of everything. You can't think of everything.
I seemed to hear Krug's voice drumming in my ears.
You'll make a mistake, Mark Durfee. You'll make a mistake.
I won't, you old fool. I won't.
You'll make a mistake.
Oh, poor Krug. You know, a pawnbroker's life is not an easy one, and Krug took such an interest in his business. And he never suspected Mark Durfee. In fact, he probably liked him for his redeeming qualities. Well, come to think of it, Krug was pretty lucky at that. Mark didn't steal anything from the store but the gun, so Krug lost practically nothing but his life.
You know, Mark's story gives me an idea. I'd like to draw up a blueprint myself.
Yes, Mary, another blueprint for murder.
Oh, now, Mr. Host. I'd call mine a blueprint for summer refreshment. And I'd like to do it in sound. First, I'd start with the creak of porch rockers on shaded summer streets and the murmur of backyard gardeners in the lilac dust. And with the teensters home from school, there'd have to be some sweet swing music, of course. And just to make my blueprint of summer sounds complete, you'd hear the tinkle of ice in tall, cool glasses. Glasses of refreshing iced Lipton tea. Yes, iced Lipton tea just goes with summertime fun and enjoyment. Lipton's has such a wide-awake flavor. The whole family will love it. And that flavor, folks, is brisk. Yes, that's the secret. Lipton's brisk flavor is what makes iced Lipton tea taste extra good. So for a delightful treat to beat the heat, serve iced tea. And for the best iced tea ever, insist on Lipton tea. Brisk flavor, never flat.
Couldn't have done better myself, Mary. But now, let's catch up with our architect of murder. If Mark Durfee's blueprint works out according to schedule, our death rate should go up sharply to about 1 per person. Let's see. He should be up to his 5th step by now, shouldn't he?
Tuesday was a clear day without rain. I felt better. I knew now that I couldn't make a mistake. In 4 days, Basil Archer would die as planned.
And now for the fifth step. An easy one for Mark Durfee because he's a newspaper columnist. It merely requires dictating a little item for his column into the dictaphone at his desk.
Oh, there's a new play opening soon, which should be a huge success. If the author and the leading lady can do anything to make it click. They're working harder on it than the producer himself. It looks like they've clicked with each other, too.
And now, the sixth step. 8 steps to murder, and this is number 6. Just a couple of telephone calls to set the 6th step in motion.
Hello?
Hello, Nina. Did you see the paper this morning?
Mark, darling, it was perfect. I've had a half dozen phone calls. Everybody knows you met Sutherland and me.
Oh, good.
Basil saw it, too, at breakfast this morning.
You did? How did he like it?
Oh, he just looked glum. I don't think he believes it.
Well, all right. Now, here's what I want you to do. Get hold of Sutherland and make him take you out tonight.
Uh-huh.
There's a fast little nightclub out on the island, the Pirate's Hold.
I know the place. Kind of disreputable, isn't it?
Yeah, right. Well, now, look, you get Sutherland to take you there. You think you can manage that?
Oh, he'll take me anywhere I want to go.
Good. Be sure to be there tonight about 10. I'll take care of the rest.
Basil Archer speaking.
Oh, hello, Basil. How are you?
Mark Durfee. Now, look here,
Now,
Mark.
look, wait. Take it easy, Basil. I know you want to bore me out about that piece in the column.
I thought you were a friend of mine.
Well, look, Basil, that's why I printed that piece. I don't like what's going on.
Just what do you mean? If Nina feels like working with the author of the play, she
Sure, that's all right. But look, why keep things secret?
What do you mean by that?
Well, you ask Sutherland if he has any plans for tonight.
I know what plans he has for tonight. He's going to stay home and work on some lines in the last scene.
Oh, is that so?
What are you hinting at, Mark?
I'm hinting that you take a run out to the Pirate's Hold. You know where it is? Out on the island? And you'll see how hard Sutherland will be working on the last scene. Hello?
Mark, this is Nina.
Oh, where are you?
I'm calling from the Pirate's Hold. Basil was just here.
Oh, good. Did he find you with Sutherland?
Well, naturally, I did just what you told me to.
Fine. Everything is set for tomorrow.
You're sure everything will be all right?
Oh, yes, quite sure. Now, this is what I want you to do tomorrow. Just before the show opens, you'll take sick.
Oh.
Basil will have to put in an understudy for you.
Yes, I can do that all right.
Then you'll dismiss the servant.
Yes.
Now, remember this clearly, Nina. You're going to be my alibi for the hour between 9 and 10. Understand?
I understand, Mark.
I'll be over at 9. But I'll leave a few minutes later by the back way. Only you'll swear that I stayed till a few minutes after 10. Is that clear?
Yes, Mark. And good luck.
When I rang the doorbell of Nina's apartment Friday night, I knew that every step I'd taken thus far had been right. I couldn't fail.
Mark, I was afraid you weren't coming. I was afraid something had gone wrong.
Nothing's gone wrong. You sent the servants away?
Yes, they're all gone. I'm alone. I can swear you were here till after 10.
Good.
How are you going to kill him?
With this.
A gun. What's that bulky-looking thing on it on the muzzle?
It's a silencer, Nina.
Oh. Well, you better hurry, darling. You haven't much time.
There's one thing more that I've got to do here before I go.
Why are you pointing the gun at me?
Because I'm going to kill you, Nina, dear.
Oh, now, Mark, I don't like that kind of joke.
It isn't a joke, my darling.
Mark, are you crazy?
You little fool. Did you think I'd go to all this trouble, planning this thing step by step? Did you think I was doing all of this for you?
But I thought you loved me.
You thought I was committing murder because I loved you? Oh, Nina, you're just another step in my blueprint. Now you've served your purpose, just like Krug. Krug was step 1, you're step 7.
Mark! Oh.
I made sure Nina was dead. Then I hurried out and went to Basil Archer's office. I had to be sure my timing was right. This was the 8th and the final step. I knew Basil would be in his office during the first intermission, so... Hello, Basil.
Oh, it's you, Mark. Come in. I want to talk to you.
What about, Basil?
Mark, what's going on between Sutherland and Nina?
Oh, no, Basil, you're not a fool.
I can't believe it.
Well, look, if you want proof, suppose you get that package out of the safe, the one I left with you.
The package? What's that got?
Well, you get it, and I'll show you.
All right. Well, here's your package. Now, what do you want to show me?
Still got all that cash in the safe, huh?
You know, I always have it here.
Yes, I know.
Say, what are you doing with that revolver?
Look, Basil. Look into the muzzle.
What the...
That's just right.
Oh!
I opened the package Basil had given me. It was only an empty box, nothing in it, but there was something here I could put into it now. I stepped across Basil's body, knelt before the open safe, and took out the neatly tied bundles of money and put them into the empty box. $100,000. It was well worth the months of planning, the careful blueprinting. I was a rich man. Now I was ready for the finale. The last bit of routine business, which would finish the whole thing off properly. I picked up the phone and dialed police headquarters. It wouldn't be too difficult to imitate Basil Archer's voice over the telephone. I'd rehearsed that, too.
Yes, headquarters.
Hello. This is Basil Archer speaking. I've just killed my wife.
What's that?
My wife and Sutherland, they were planning to run away together. They stole all the money from my safe, and we're going away. So I killed her. So now I'm going to kill myself, too.
Now, wait, Mr. Archer. Now, wait a minute. Don't do anything
I
rash.
softly replaced
Just stay there till we send a radio.
Now, everything was set. Carefully, I placed the revolver in Basil's cold hand and left no prints on it because I was wearing gloves. I picked up the package and walked out into the hall. But in the hall, I stopped short. Someone had just come into the building downstairs. I peered down and I saw Gregory Sutherland coming up.
Mr. Archer, are you up there? You better hurry. The second act is started.
Sutherland was coming up the stairs. I couldn't get out. But I wasn't trapped. Oh, no. There was a porter's closet down the hall. I tiptoed over to it and slipped inside just as Sutherland got to the landing.
Mr. Archer, are you in there?
Sutherland was in Basil's office now. He'd be finding the body. This was my chance to sneak out. I opened the closet door.
Come on, Kitty. Archer's office is one place up. If we can make it in time. The guy said he was going to kill himself.
The police had come in answer to my telephone call. Now I couldn't get out. There'd be a crowd outside and I'd be seen leaving. I had to stay in the building. Still, I wasn't trapped. I knew just what to do. Instead of leaving the building, I would walk out of the closet and into Basil's office right after the police. They'd think I'd just arrived. I stepped out of the porter's closet. I started for the door of Basil's office. Then, suddenly, I got a sick, weak feeling in the pit of my stomach. I stopped stock still. I'd almost walked into my death. It was raining outside. Suppose I'd walked in there with my clothes all dry, claiming that I'd just come in from the street. They'd know that I'd been hiding in the building all the time. The rain, that rain, it almost tricked me again.
You can't think of everything. You'll make a mistake. You can't think
I can, you old fool. I'll show you. I hurried back into the porter's closet. I knew how to beat this, too. I turned on the faucet in the sink. Splashed and drenched myself from head to foot. Well, now I looked as if I'd just come in out of the rain. I stepped out of the closet, went down the hall, Entered Basil Archer's office, dripping wet. The two policemen were standing over Basil's body with Gregory Sutherland. They all looked up as I came in.
Oh, hello, Mr. Durfee. Sorry about this. It's your friend, Basil Archer. Committed suicide.
Oh, no. Oh, it's impossible, Sergeant Moran. Basil wouldn't do a thing like that. Why, who found him?
I did, Mr. Durfee. I came to call him for the second act.
Oh, this is terrible.
It's like an open and shut case. Killed his wife, then came here and knocked himself off.
Oh.
And what's more, Mr. Sutherland?
Yes?
Before he knocked himself off, he phoned headquarters and said you'd stolen money from his safe.
Oh, that's a lie. Wait a minute. Sergeant. Mr. Durfee.
Yes, Sutherland.
How did you get yourself all wet like that?
Oh, well, you try not getting wet in that rain.
Rain? What rain, Mr. Durfee?
Suddenly, I went clammy all over. I saw that none of them was wet. Their clothes were all dry. But how could that be? They'd just come in out of the rain.
What rain, Mr. Durfee?
Well, you can hear it, can't you? It's pouring rain. Just listen to that thunder.
Thunder? Rain? Good heavens, that's the funniest thing I've ever heard. Don't you see, Sergeant, he's been in the building all the time, trying to make us think he just came in and he got himself all wet for nothing. Sergeant, I bet you $1 he murdered Archer.
You're crazy. It's pouring outside. You can hear it yourself. But just listen to that rain beating down. The thunder.
You poor sap. That isn't rain you hear. It's my play next door. Storm over the Highlands. Remember? And those are the sound effects in the second act.
So, it looks like Mark Durfee was all wet. In fact, he got himself so soaking wet, he practically liquidated himself. But cheer up, I'm sure he won't spend more than 6 months in jail. And that wouldn't be so bad, would it? If they weren't going to execute him afterward.
Poor Mark. If only someone had told him.
Told him what, Mary?
Well, look, Mark took 8 steps to get in the cooler when you really only have to take 1 step to get cool. Sure, just step down to the grocer's and get a large economical package of brisk Lipton tea. Then keep a pitcher of iced Lipton tea always on hand and help yourself to its cooling refreshment off and on throughout the day. That's all there is to it. And you'll find Lipton's makes perfect iced tea because Lipton's is never flat. It always tastes delightfully tangy and full-bodied. That's why this summer, when you want iced tea, you should be sure to use the tea with the brisk flavor. Ask your grocer tomorrow for Lipton's.
And so ends our little essay on the modern methods of murder. Of course, our little essays on murder are only for the select few. As a matter of fact, only 1 person in every 10,000 is capable of murder. Mm-hmm. And speaking of statistics, due to our high birth rate, the population of this country is increasing faster than inner sanctum can kill them. Very discouraging. Very discouraging indeed. Oh, by the way, this month's Inner Sanctum mystery novel is The Panic Stricken by Mitchell Wilson. And next week, the makers of Lipton Tea and Lipton Soups will bring you another Inner Sanctum story directed by Hyman Brown and called Bury Me Not. Now, there's a plot for you. A plot right in the graveyard. Trouble is, the rains come and uncover it. What becomes of the body? Well, now, that's anybody's guess. But come around next week. We'll be right at the graveside, and we'd like to have you drop in. Until then, good night. Pleasant dreams.
Well, that one had a lot of information to memorize. Well, no, my dear. You know, I like to think that hearing a scary story brings us a bit of peace in a turbulent time. Life can be very turbulent, but believe me, so can the alternative. Oh, what's that? Oh, no. I have another one for you. This one, I think you'll enjoy quite a bit. Because you see, one of the reasons when the sun goes down, we get so nervous is because of a little night murder.
Come in. Welcome. I'm E.G. Marshall. Welcome to the world of your own terrifying imagination. There are people who suddenly find themselves tortured and taunted by a fragile wisp of a memory. It's a memory of something they may have said or something they think they did. Exactly what it was has been long forgotten. But now it must be paid for. And the price? Life itself.
Yes?
Are you Mrs. Louise Goodman?
That's right.
Are you sure?
Why, of course I'm sure.
It's just that I don't want to make a mistake.
I'm Mrs. Louise Goodman. Who are you? And what is it you want?
I want to keep my promise.
Promise? What promise?
I promised I'd kill you. Remember?
Our mystery drama, A Little Night Murder, was written especially for the Mystery Theater by Sam Dan and stars Tony Roberts. I'll be back shortly with Act One. Downtown at night, the city is a deserted place. The lofty office buildings, those gleaming towers of glass and steel, stand quiet, empty and foreboding, like ancient temples. And like the ancient temples, they also have their priestesses. These are the ladies who enter at night with mops and brooms and vacuum cleaners to clear away the debris of the day's worship and purify the offices for tomorrow's rituals. We are concerned now with one of these, a sturdy, middle-aged woman named Mary Margaret Cannon. Steady, hardworking, no nonsense. But on this Friday evening, something seems amiss. Mary Margaret is pale. She's nervous. And every now and then she stops working and just listens.
Someone there?
Hello?
Terry, I'm scared.
Scared? You? Oh, now, Mary, what would you be scared of?
I don't know. It's these murders.
Murders?
These women who've been getting killed.
Now, I'll come and stay with you if you want.
Oh, please. I'm so nervous, so jumpy. I'm so scared.
Yeah, but why?
I just don't know. Terry.
Yes?
I hear someone coming.
Are you sure?
I hear someone. Terry.
I'll hang up and call the police.
Oh, no, don't. It's just the guard.
Yeah, you see? Now, is everything okay?
Oh, yeah. Look, you just forget I called and get your rest. Oh, good evening, Tom. Oh, you're not Tom.
No. I'm the new man, Mrs. Cannon.
Oh, well, What happened to Tom?
He called in earlier today. He said he was sick. They sent me down to relieve him.
How'd you know my name?
Oh, Tom told me. I asked him, who's in the building tonight? And he said, just Mrs. Cannon.
But
what?
Tom doesn't know my last name any more than I know his. We're just Mary and Tom. How did you know?
Why shouldn't I know your last name? You know mine.
How? How would I know your last name?
It's Jackson. You remember? Little Peter Jackson.
I never saw you before in my life.
Oh, you did. Yes, you did.
What do you want?
I want to keep my promise.
What promise?
I promised I'd kill you.
Why do you want to kill me?
You don't remember? Well, let me refresh your memory, Mary Margaret Cannon. 23 years ago, you lived on Baxter Street, and one morning you walked into a little grocery store. Now you remember. You have exactly 30 seconds to live.
Oh, please don't kill me, please.
Shouldn't you be saying your prayers?
But I told the truth.
If it was the truth, then God will forgive you. Pray, Mary Margaret Cannon. Pray.
Oh, listen. My husband and I, we have a little money put aside.
And I know exactly how you got
it.
it.
You can have it. All of it. Only don't
pray. Pray, Mary Margaret.
Jackson! Peter Jackson! Maybe 30 years old, tall, thin, blonde.
Don't shout. No one can hear you.
They'll hear me. They'll arrest you and hang you. His name is Jackson. Jackson, Peter Jackson. Oh, no, don't. They'll catch you, Peter. They'll catch you.
Number 4. Mrs. Mary Margaret Cannon. Number 5, coming up, Miss Alice Maitland.
Captain Blake. Yes, Commissioner. Commissioner, I understand you... Listen, if you think somebody else can run it better, then get somebody else. I agree, sir. Yes, sir. No need for any of us to blow his stack. Absolutely, sir. Yes, I'll keep you informed. Wow, you got a pretty good one here. Is this your first mad killer assignment, Lou?
Yeah, I guess so, Captain.
Mad killers, mad bombers, mad stranglers, you name it. You get one every 10, 15 years. You can count on it. You get a rash of absolutely senseless killings. No motive, no rhyme, no reason.
Should we talk to her husband again?
What for? All he's going to tell us is what a great lady she was and how they neither of them ever had any enemies.
Captain Blake, just suppose it isn't a mad killer.
4 murders in 11 days. Number 1, Mrs. Martha Denson, shot while parking her car late at night. Number 2, Mrs. Janet Drew, shot in her backyard. Number 3, Mrs. Louise Goodman, shot in her apartment. Number 4, this cleaning lady, shot while at work.
Well, could there be a connection? Did they have something in common?
There's no pattern. None of them knew each other as far as we can make out, or even had anything in common.
Yeah, that we know of.
It's the toughest situation in our business. A mad killer.
Okay, he's a mad killer. Every killer is mad. But does this one have a method to his madness?
Yeah. He uses a .38 caliber revolver and shoots women.
The last one, Mrs. Cannon, that's the problem.
What kind of problem?
Well, he's a mad killer, you say, so he wanders around, and if he gets a chance, he'll kill. He sees a woman alone in a parking lot.
1230 WCOL.
He sees Mrs. Drew in her backyard. He shoots her. He sees Mrs. Goodman alone in her apartment. He shoots her. Okay, how do you account for Mrs. Cannon?
You're dealing with a madman, Lou. You can't account for anything he does.
All right, 3 women are targets of opportunity. They happened along, or he happened along, and that was it. But he went out of his way to kill Mrs. Cannon. Look, he had to slug the night watchman. He had to take the elevator up 12 stories to find her. It means he wasn't just out to kill any woman. He wanted that woman. Why?
That's good thinking, Lou. And if this were almost any other kind of case... Blake. What? Oh, no. Not another one. Okay, all right. Send her in. Did they tell you about nuts while you were getting your college degree? This one coming in sounds like a 14-carat nut to me.
Captain Blake?
Yes, I'm Captain Blake. This Detective Parker.
How do you do?
Huh?
I'm Miss Maitland, Alice Maitland. I own a bookshop on 3rd Street, and... Well, it's about the murders.
Do you know anything about the murders, Miss Maitland?
I know who's going to be killed next.
You do? Who?
Me.
Why do you say that?
I have a premonition.
I see.
I know what you gentlemen must be thinking. You're convinced I'm a hysterical woman or a crank.
No, but
Miss Maitland, do you have any enemies?
I don't know of any.
Well, we know there's a homicidal maniac loose. It's true he may strike at anyone.
That's not why I'm here. I know he's going to strike at me.
Well, what reason would anyone have for killing you?
What reason was there for killing those other women?
You say your shop is on 3rd Street. I'll see that the officer on the beat keeps an eye on the place.
Yes. I just thought I should tell you. That's all anyone can do, I suppose. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Miss Maitland.
Now, Lou, you have just conversed with an authentic member of the Nut Club.
I don't know about that, Captain.
She's a charter member. She belongs to the I'm the Next Victim chapter.
I still say she's not a nut.
Maybe not. Maybe she's just some poor little dame half scared out of her wits.
Oh, she was calm. She was very calm. As a matter of fact, it's as if she knows what she's talking about.
May I help you? Oh.
Hello. Remember me?
Yes. You're one of the detectives I spoke with.
Yeah, Lou Parker. Tell me why you came to police headquarters with a story that, well, rationally, it doesn't make sense. You said as much yourself. You felt that you had made yourself seem somewhat ridiculous. But now, well, forget all that. I'm willing to assume that your story is true, that you really are next on the list.
Then you do believe me?
I'm willing to accept what you say, but you have to help me. Does anyone have a motive for wanting to kill you?
No.
You never did or said anything that may have hurt someone?
I can't remember.
A disappointed boyfriend?
I never really disappointed anyone that way.
And yet you insist someone wants to kill you.
I know it sounds ridiculous.
There's a reason for feeling the way you do. Only we could uncover that reason.
Excuse me, that's my phone. Hello? 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 Hello?
Miss Maitland?
Yes.
What is it? You seem rather pale.
Oh?
What happened?
When I picked up the phone, there was just a click on the other end. As if someone had just hung up.
Well, why should that seem to upset you?
Well, because it's happened before.
It has?
Yes.
Frequently? I mean, often enough so that it really isn't just an accident?
3, 4, perhaps 5 times a day.
When did it start?
Oh, I'd say about 2 weeks ago. I remember it happened 3 times the night the first of those women was murdered.
Well, why didn't you tell us this before?
I didn't think it was anything important.
May I use your phone?
It's back there in the office.
Okay, I'll only be a moment.
May I help you?
Yes. Is your name Alice Maitland?
Yes. Can I do anything for you?
Well, you see, I came here because I have to keep a certain promise I made.
Say what you will about this young man. He has at least one redeeming feature. His word seems to be as good as his bond. But will he be able to keep this particular promise? This problem will be our primary concern when we return shortly with Act Two. At one time, a young man named Peter Jackson has made the same promise to several women. A promise that he would kill them. So far, he has kept his promise 4 times. Now, he is in a bookshop owned by a Miss Maitland, apparently ready to fulfill promise number 5.
I came here because I have to keep a certain promise I made.
You made a promise?
Oh, yes. And I came here to keep my word.
Miss Maitland, I think we're... Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you had a customer.
What sort of promise are you talking about?
I had promised a special person I would buy her a book. And I came in here to...
Any particular type of book?
Yeah. Yes, a good murder mystery.
Oh, well, we have the latest Jonathan Merriweather novel.
No, I don't dig him. Nothing happens. You got anything by Mike Stilson? Now, there's a guy who really writes murders. I mean, he kills somebody every other page.
Oh, we're sold out on the latest. It's called Blood on the Street.
Yeah, that's the one in which this guy kills all those dames.
Look, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, all you have to do is read the newspapers.
Do I tell you what to read, buddy?
Sorry.
I could order the book and have it day after tomorrow.
Oh, no. That'll be too late.
Well, try us again.
Sure.
Well, there's a guy with gruesome tastes.
Well, takes all kinds.
Hey, you know, he's a great Mike Stilson fan, and he thinks nobody knows it.
Who?
My boss, Captain Blake.
You're kidding.
Hey, this is the very first time I've ever seen you smile.
Oh, I smile a lot. It's just recently.
I told Captain Blake about the calls.
And?
Well, you never know. He just grunted and said, I'll stay with it. What time do you close?
Just about now.
I'll take you home.
I live in this building, 2 flights up.
Well, how about some dinner?
Oh, you don't have to.
You asked for police protection.
Is that the reason? Line of duty?
Well, yes and no.
I'd like to. Except that, well, it's the end of the month and I'm swamped with paperwork.
Well, this neighborhood seems safe enough. It's busy.
And that diner across the street stays open all night.
Look, keep this card handy at all times. It's got a special phone number. Now use it. Anytime you're disturbed by anything at all, no matter how slight or trivial, don't feel embarrassed. Just get on the phone.
But I've already told the officers everything.
Yeah, I know, Mr. Cannon, but I just have one more question. It's very important.
What could be important? Mary's dead.
You said that Mrs. Cannon had no enemies.
I'll take that back. She had a great many enemies.
But when we asked you last night, you said she had none.
Sometimes when you think about a question, you see it in a whole new light.
Can you name some of these enemies?
She was good. She was honest.
I'm sure she was, but just tell me this. During the past 10 days or so, would the phone ring and then go dead as soon as you picked it up?
Yeah, now that you mention it, yeah, it happened.
Often?
At least 2, 3, maybe 4 times a day.
I see. Is the name Alice Maitland familiar?
Alice Maitland.
Think.
Alice Maitland. You know, there is something familiar about it. The Alice Maitland.
Think of the type person with whom you could associate that name. Now, would she be a movie star, a librarian, a teacher, a woman who might own a bookstore?
No, none of those. I think of a little girl.
A little girl named Alice Maitland. Did she live in the neighborhood?
You know, these past couple of years, my memory, it just comes and goes. Right now, it's gone.
Well, if ever you remember why and how you know Alice Maitland, call the number on this card. I'll have another cup of coffee, please.
Are you waiting for somebody, mister?
Well, not exactly. Why do you ask?
Oh, well, now you've been sitting around for hours drinking the stuff. The coffee in this joint that good?
Look, don't be frightened.
Oh, who's frightened?
Well, you are, so, just look at this.
Look. Oh, you're a cop.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was beginning to think that you could be that mad killer.
Well, it could be just about anybody. I, hope I didn't scare you too badly.
Well, the truth is, I wasn't that much scared for myself.
No?
But you've just been staring at that building across the street. I got the idea you were watching for something. Are you?
Well, maybe.
Could I have change for the telephone, please? Thank you.
Now, where have I seen him before?
What did you say?
Nothing. I was just talking to myself.
You do that a lot, don't you?
Do what?
Talk to yourself.
Well, that was a short call.
She wasn't home.
Oh, it's too bad. Did you find the book?
What book?
The one by Mike Stilson.
Oh. No.
Well, keep looking.
You know the best way to stop talking to yourself?
No.
Get married.
The light went on in her room.
What's that?
He went to the booth. He only had time to dial, and the light went on in Alice's apartment.
Who's Alice?
It could be a coincidence. Wait a minute.
Hello?
Alice, it's Lou Parker. Did I wake you?
No. I'm up.
Did your phone ring just a minute ago?
Did it ring? Well, I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
Well, I'd fallen asleep, and, well, I must have been having a bad dream. I think I heard the phone, but it could have been in the dream. Anyhow, I did wake up suddenly, and I turned on the light, but I didn't hear the phone ringing anymore.
Could it have been the ringing of the phone that woke you?
I don't know. Did I hear it ring, or did I dream it was ringing? Why do you ask?
I'm just checking. Anyhow, I'm glad you're okay. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Oh, that was a short phone call, too.
Yeah.
How is she?
Who?
Your girl.
How do you know I call my girl?
I told you I read character.
Do you also read the future?
Like an open book.
Well, I sure hope so. Captain, we got ourselves the killer.
Oh, how can you be sure of your guy?
I saw him in the bookshop.
Does that make him a suspect? Maybe he likes to read.
Then again in the diner.
He may have been hungry.
He didn't eat. He just went into the phone booth. He didn't even make a call. He was in there just long enough to let the number ring, and then he was out.
So?
So the light went on in Alice's, Miss Maitland's apartment.
You mean he called her and hung up?
Well,
what?
She isn't sure.
How can she not be sure? The phone rang or it didn't?
It isn't that simple. You see, she was asleep and she can't be sure. If it was the ringing of the phone that woke her up, or if the ringing of the phone was part of her dream.
Good luck.
Look, Captain Blake, there's something about this guy. He's young, about 30-ish, thin, blonde, a very hard line to his mouth.
Lo, I think you better report in for general duty. This case is getting to you.
Well, Captain, please.
It's no reflection. It's even to your credit. It shows you care about people.
Captain, let me have one more day.
All right, Lou. 24 hours.
I'm sorry I've caused you so much embarrassment, Lou.
That's all right.
Captain Blake is unhappy.
He'll get over it.
He thinks I'm crazy.
Well, he thinks most people are crazy.
Lou, you can't keep guarding me forever.
He has to strike at you soon. That's the pattern. He's done 4 murders in 12 days. That's one every 3 days. This is the night of the 15th day. He's due. Unless...
Unless what?
Well, Unless I've scared him off for a while. No, keep away from your window.
Why?
Well, if he's around, we'll be tipped off. But could I have scared him away? After all, how would he know I'm a cop? You never saw him before?
Never.
We have to assume he's our killer. And what is the only thing we know about him besides his general physical description?
We know he wanted a book by Mike Stilson.
Blood on the Streets.
But he could have made that up on the spur of the moment.
People rarely make things up in the spur of the moment. He knows what he's doing. He's out to frighten you. The phone calls are a part of it. That book. There's something in it that would cause you to be frightened. But what?
I don't know. I've never read it.
Well, he figures you did. After all, you own a bookstore.
I have to sell books by Mike Stilson, but no one can force me to read them.
Well, the clue is in that book. Wait a minute.
Hello?
Captain Blake, it's Lou Parker.
You know it's 2 a.m.
Yes, sir, but I'm calling in the line of duty.
You live dangerously, Lou. What is it?
Captain, you've read all the books by Mike Stilson.
What?
Don't deny it, sir. It's a known fact throughout the department.
You mean you woke me up at 2 a.m. just to ask?
Line of duty, sir.
If I read those books, it's only because I get a good laugh at how unrealistic they are.
Captain, what's the story of Blood on the Streets?
Lou, I hope your patrolman's uniform still fits.
I'll be able to prove this is the line of duty. Yeah, Alice, pick up in your extension.
Well, in a nutshell, a bunch of spoiled, rotten rich kids are kind of high. They're joyriding in this sports car, and they run down and kill this harmless old gent. The harmless old gent has a son. The son comes back from Vietnam. He swears he'll have revenge, so he shoots the joyriders one by one.
That's it?
That's it. And it better be line of duty.
Well, Alice?
No. I was never involved in anything like that.
Does it remind you of something that might be similar?
No.
But it has to. Think. I hope you don't mind if I answer your phone. Hello?
Detective?
Yes.
He's here. You know, Blondie. He's sitting at the counter. He's having a ham sandwich and a glass of milk.
Thanks.
He can't see me, but I can see him. Oh, he's headed for the phone booth.
Oh, good work. We better hang up.
What is it, Lou?
Well, right now, right here and now, we're going to find out. If that telephone should ring...
Whatever his faults, and we have already witnessed a rather grievous one, at least young Peter Jackson is something of a sportsman. In his own way, he warns his intended victims. He even tries to give them clues. This time, has he given one too many? We'll be back shortly with Act 3. What would our civilization be without the telephone? Imagine your life without it. And the way the telephone works, it requires two people to complete a call. However, some of the most eloquent conversations can be carried on when there's no one at the other end, as you shall hear.
Answer it, Alice. Answer it.
Hello? He hung up.
Now I've got him.
Where are you going?
You stay here.
Hi, Detective.
Where is he?
Blondie? Well, I told you he went into the phone booth. He didn't stay in there more than a couple of seconds, and then he ran out of here.
Did you see which way he went?
He didn't even pay his check.
Which way did he go?
Look, you got nothing to worry about. You'll get him.
What are you saying?
He ran into a cab that's usually parked outside.
All right, could you describe
I don't have to describe. I know.
Look, all I want is...
I know the cab driver. He's a school teacher for days, and he moonlights. His name is Vic Wilson.
Does he have a radio?
They all have radios. How could he make a living?
What's the company?
Oh, what a great witness I make. Jefferson. You even got the number on a card in the phone booth. Blondie's in for it, huh?
Jefferson cabs.
This is a police call. You have a driver, Vic Wilson. He's on a job right now. The minute he checks in, have him report back to the diner at 3rd Street, to Detective Parker.
Detective Parker?
Yeah.
How do I know it's...
My badge.
Get in. Can't be too careful of that maniac running around loose.
Where'd you take your last fare?
790 Crest.
Oh, what is it?
It's an apartment building.
How big?
6 family, I'd say.
Attached?
No, it's all by itself. There's an empty lot on either side. They're renovating the neighborhood. It's about time.
He lives there, huh?
Yeah, I've been taking him there for the last couple of days. He comes out of the diner, he gets into the camp, that's where he goes.
That's good enough.
Is he a bad boy?
Well, you wouldn't give him a star for good conduct, teacher.
Throw on those searchlights, Haggerty, and hand me that bullhorn. We know who you are, and we know you're in there. We'll give you exactly 60 seconds to come out. Walk out the front door with your hands in the air. Keep behind the car, Lou. A nut like this one might want to take some people with him. You've had your minute. Come out, or we'll come in. All right, let's get in there fast. Open up, police. All right, stand to the side of the door, Lou. Cover me.
Who is it?
It's me, Lou.
Lou, what happened?
Well,
You didn't get him.
no, we didn't get him.
Maybe it was the wrong house.
No, the cab driver insists that's where he's been taking him.
Then what happened?
Oh, he's smart. He has himself dropped off at a false certain address in case he's being tailed, and then he sneaks out.
Makes sense.
Of course, Captain Blake doesn't believe a word of it.
But, Lou...
Oh, come on. 6 families live in that house. 6 ordinary, law-abiding families, and we rouse them at 5 in the morning and search the place.
How angry is Captain Blake?
Well, if he ever gets over it, I may wind up working nights in charge of the property office. Otherwise, I'm pounding a beat down along the docks.
It's my fault.
No.
How do I really know I'm in danger? Why isn't this the product of an overwrought imagination?
And the phone calls?
Coincidence.
And the guy in the bookshop? We see him again in the phone booth just before your telephone rings?
It could all be coincidence.
I can't accept that.
Captain Blake does.
As far as I'm concerned, you're in danger, and you're convinced of it too, aren't you?
But I don't have to be right.
We can't take any more chances. Now, I'm going to stay here with you for another hour. By then, the stores will be open, and we'll buy you a small .25 caliber revolver.
No.
I'll arrange for a permit, and I'll show you how to use it.
But I can't stand the sight of a gun.
Alice, if a man is determined to kill you, all the advantages are on his side. We have to reduce the odds.
I couldn't own a gun. I couldn't use one even if it meant saving my life.
Now, Alice, I don't want to say that sounds silly, but...
I don't think I can ever forget.
Forget what?
Well, I was standing right next to a man once who was killed by a gun.
When?
Oh, years ago. I was about 6.
Who was killed?
A very nice man. He was our grocer, Mr. Jackson. It was the day after New Year's, and Mama sent me out to buy... To this day, I remember a quart of milk, a half-pound of butter, and a jar of strawberry jam. And then this man came in. He had a gun. It was a holdup. And suddenly, there was a loud explosion and a terrible flash of light. Oh, it was terrible. Mr. Jackson fell to the floor. He was dead. And the man ran away.
Was he ever caught?
Oh, yes. Just a few hours later. I had to go to the station house to identify him.
Do you realize what you've just told me? This is it. You identified the man. He was sent to jail. Now, years later, he wants his revenge.
But that's not what happened.
No?
Well, you see, I was so frightened. I wasn't sure. I really couldn't identify him. And he went free. So why would he want to kill me now?
Then that gets us nowhere either.
The others couldn't identify him either.
The others?
Yes. There were other people, but no one was sure of him.
Now, if you had identified him and sent him to prison, it'd make sense to suppose he'd want revenge, but you didn't. Now, whoever and wherever he is today, he's happy. But the fact that you failed to identify him could have made someone else unhappy.
What do you mean?
Oh, the book, Blood on the Streets. It's about a man who killed people who did his father an injury. Did this grocer have a son?
I think so. I think a little boy used to play in the store. But it's so long ago. Who could that be?
I'll take it. Hello?
Mr. Parker, it's Terry Cannon. Remember me?
Yes, Mr. Cannon.
They said I could reach you at this number. Anyhow, it came to me.
What came to you?
Well, I was trying to puzzle out why the name Alice Maitland was so familiar. Well, sir, about 23 years ago, Mary Margaret was in a grocery store, and a man was killed in a holdup. I took her down to the station house to identify the gunman.
And could she?
Well, no, sir, she really couldn't be sure. Anyhow, another one of the witnesses was a little girl. Her name was Alice Maitland. And I remember her because she was the most terrified little thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cannon. I've got you. Finally, I've got you all tied together.
Who?
You and those women who were killed all come together in a little grocery store some 23 years ago. Finally, now we know who we're looking for. I'd like to see the look on Captain Blake's face when I tell him
You won't
this.
live to see that look, friend.
Lou!
I know you got a gun in the shoulder holster. Just lay the phone down. Slow. Easy. Now, raise the hand. Slow. Easy. That's fine. Just keep them there.
I guess your name is Jackson.
Peter Jackson, Jr. You figured it out. So I figured I'd have to come back and get both of you. The hands stay up.
Well, it's too late, Peter. We know about you.
Yeah, you know about me, but the other cops don't. See, I was in the house across the street when you staged the raid. I thought I'd die laughing. I learned never to get dropped off where I live. That way you don't get surprised.
You won't get away with it.
Oh, I'll get away with it. She's the last one. I'm sorry about you, but I'll walk out of here. And who'll know it was me?
But why her? She was just a kid.
She lied.
But I didn't know. I really didn't know.
Yeah, that's what they all said, but they were lying. They were bought off. All of you were bought off.
Come on, Peter, talk sense.
My father is murdered, and the law lets a killer go free, and you want me to talk sense? Does it make sense that 5 people who were standing right there couldn't recognize him?
But I couldn't be sure. I really couldn't be sure.
My father, he never hurt a soul in his life. If a hungry person didn't have a penny in his pocket, he could still walk out of that store with a loaf of bread or a bottle of milk.
If your father was that kind of man, what would he think of you, killing innocent people?
My father believed in justice.
But you knew who the killer was. Why didn't you go after him?
Yeah, I did, but I was cheated. I spent years on his trail, and when I finally caught up with him, he was in his grave. Well, my father wasn't going to be cheated out of everything. If I couldn't have the killer, at least I could get the people who helped him.
Let me explain something.
No, you don't want to explain anything. You want a store. You want a chance to go for your gun. Well, you won't get it. See, I'll kill you first, and then her. There's such a thing in this world as justice. If the law won't give it to you, then you make your own.
And that's why you're doing this? For justice?
That's right.
That's wrong. You're doing it because you love to kill.
That's a lie.
It's the truth. Look at yourself. Look at how you're enjoying this.
I'm doing what has to be done.
You killed those 4 women and you enjoyed it.
You have 30 seconds to live. Say your prayers.
How long do you think you have to live? You're going to keep killing and you'll be caught. You can't stop.
I hate killing.
Come on, you love to see people under the gun, how they squirm and sweat. You're eating this up. Look at your face in that mirror. Look at that grin. Like a wolf. See how flushed and excited you are. Look at yourself. Look. I'm gonna break your arm. Drop it.
Very good work, Lou. Very good. One more second and we would have had to gun him down. This way we can take him home alive.
Captain Blake.
Somehow, I'm going to get back here. Get back to you, Miss Alice Maitland. I'll keep my promise. Haggerty, Gordon. Cuff him. Hustle him back to headquarters.
Look, Alice, don't worry about him.
You all right, Miss Maitland?
Yes, I think so.
You shouldn't be. It was a rough experience.
Why did you come back, Captain?
Well, I guess we both solved it, Lou. You broke it by pure and simple brain work. I waited for a miracle.
Oh, did you get it?
Yeah, I got it. I got it because of this little machine. Mary Cannon was killed in an office. She managed somehow to throw the switch on a dictating machine. A secretary came into work this morning, and she heard Peter Jackson, and she didn't stop running till she got to my desk. Listen.
The name is Jackson. Peter Jackson. They'll catch you, Peter. They'll catch you.
Number 4, Mrs. Mary Margaret Cannon. Number 5, coming up, Miss Alice Maitland.
You see, Lou? There's your whole story.
Of course, that isn't our whole story. For instance, you might want to know what happened to Peter Jackson. He's in a hospital for the criminally insane. For his sterling leadership in cracking the case, Captain Blake will probably become the next chief of police. Detective Parker will probably become Detective Sergeant Parker. And Miss Alice Maitland will probably become Mrs. Lou Parker. So you see, sometimes we can give you a happy ending. I'll be back shortly. The story you have just heard was concerned with the most precious concept the human race has ever created, justice. And when you think of Peter Jackson, perhaps he proves the point made by a great poet. When a man takes justice in his own hands, he will soon shape her to his own ends. Our cast included Tony Roberts, Susan Grossman, Jack Grimes, Bryna Rayburn, and Robert Dryden. The entire production was under the direction of Hyman Brown. G. Marshall inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater for another adventure in the macabre. Until next time, pleasant dreams.
Well, my dear, it is getting quite late, but how about just one more story? This one, I think you'll really enjoy. I found it by digging even deeper into my dusty old archives. So, how about I heat up one more hot cup of tea, put one more log on the fire? Don't worry at all. These walls are solid concrete. We're safe. This story is about how business can be a lot more than just how to earn a living. Oh, no. We can go far beyond that. You see, my dear, it just so happens, unfortunately, that business can be murder, and vice versa. Enjoy.
The Mutual Broadcasting System presents The Mysterious Traveler, written, produced, and directed by Robert A. Arthur and David Kogan, and starring tonight two of radio's foremost actors, Eric Dressler and John Sylvester, in an original radio drama titled Murder is My Business.
This is The Mysterious Traveler, inviting you to join me on another journey into the realm of the strange and the terrifying. I hope you will enjoy the trip, and it will thrill you a little and chill you a little. So settle back, get a good grip on your nerves, and be comfortable, if you can. Our story tonight begins in a huge white mansion overlooking the Hudson River, some 50 miles above New York City. In a large, comfortable room, David Phillips, a slender, nervous man in his early 30s, is seated at a desk, typing.
Dear Julia, a year has passed since we last saw each other, and I'm writing this letter with the hope that you will understand all that I'm about to reveal, and understanding will forgive me. I'm a writer, darling, and yet I find it difficult to put into words the horrible events of the past year. As they flash through my mind, I can feel the quickening of my pulse, and the hatred within me surges up as overwhelmingly as... But I mustn't think of that. It's much more important that you understand what has happened. It all began the day I was in my study, writing a script for the Dangerous Adventure radio show.
Darling, it's for you.
Who is it?
It's Basil King.
Basil King?
Dave, wait a minute. I want to talk to you.
But, honey, Basil King, I can't keep him waiting.
Yes, you can.
Well, we'll talk fast.
King's looking for a writer for his radio show, isn't he?
Yeah, Sig Rodman just quit.
Quit? You mean he had a nervous breakdown? And so has every other writer who's ever worked for Basil King. Dave, I don't want you to write for him.
But, Julie, his show pays $600 a week. We could pay off all our debts with that kind of dough.
Darling, be sensible. No amount of money is worth the punishment you'll have to take from him.
Now, look, we'll talk about this later. He's on the phone.
Tell him no.
Shh, he'll hear you. Hello?
Mr. Phillips, this is Basil King speaking.
Oh, yes, Mr. King.
Several people have spoken very highly of you as a radio writer, and at the moment I'm in need of one for my show, Brad Barker, Private Eye. Would you care to discuss the matter?
I'd like to, very much.
Are you free for luncheon tomorrow?
Yes, I am.
Shall we say 1 o'clock at the Algonquin?
All right, Mr. King.
Just ask for my table. Good day, Mr. Phillips.
Good day. Now, honey, don't look at me that way.
Dave, I just don't understand you. It doesn't make sense wanting to write for him. Everyone who's ever worked for Basil King detests him. He's the most hated man in radio.
Be reasonable, Julie. $600 a week is a lot of dough. If I can't get along with King, I'll quit. Now, what more can you ask? Next day, as the head waiter led me through the crowded dining room, I could see Basil King seated at a table in a far corner of the room. King was a tall, slender, gray-haired man in his late 40s. He had a cold, impassive face, and his movements were stiff and precise. It suddenly occurred to me that he bore an amazing resemblance to Clifton Webb, the Hollywood star. As I reached King's table, he stood up.
How do you do, Mr. Phillips? I'm Basil King. Have a seat, won't you?
Thank you.
I suggest we talk first and order luncheon later.
All right, Mr. King.
Now, Mr. Phillips, to begin with, I'm a man who believes in frankness. I dare say this frankness of mine has led to my making a large number of enemies, and has given me the reputation of being an extremely difficult person to get along with. No doubt you've heard quite a few stories about me.
Yes, I have.
Believe me, they're highly exaggerated. Great talents, such as myself, have always been misunderstood. The petty minds in this world, not understanding men of genius, are forever seeking to destroy us.
I see.
I wonder if you do, Mr. Phillips. I wonder if you do. I ask very little of my writers, merely a modicum of intelligence and the ability to accept constructive criticism.
That sounds reasonable enough.
Yes, one would think so, and yet I haven't been able to find a writer who understands me.
I'm sure you will sooner or later.
Perhaps, but to date it's been very discouraging. However, we mustn't dwell on the past. Now, Mr. Phillips, you come highly recommended, and I trust that ours shall be a happy and profitable relationship.
I hope so.
By the way, you aren't troubled by ulcers, are you?
Why, no. Good. For some unfathomable reason, all the writers I've had in the past seem to have been afflicted with ulcers. I can't stand people who are always taking pills and subsisting on bland diets. Tell me, are you familiar with my show, Brad Barker, Private Eye?
Oh, yes. I've heard it quite often.
Good. Then you're undoubtedly aware that there are two things I insist upon in my shows. Clever plots and gimmicks that work. Bear that in mind, Mr. Phillips. Clever plots and gimmicks that work.
I understand.
It's on those two rules that I have single-handedly built the most popular detective show on the air. You've only to look at the Hooper rating of Brad Barker, Private Eye, to substantiate what I'm saying.
Yes, I know. You've got a terrific rating.
18.6. Needless to add, my sponsor, the Zestful Chewing Gum Company, has increased its sales tremendously. Now, Mr. Phillips, I'm prepared to pay $600 a week for the writing of Brad Barker. Is that satisfactory?
Yes, that sounds fair enough.
When may I expect your first script?
Well, let's see. Today is Wednesday. What about Monday morning?
That's satisfactory. Monday morning it is. Now, shall we order luncheon?
An hour later, Basil King and I separated in front of the Algonquin. I went home and started work on the script, determined to turn out a show that would make King sit up and take notice. After 4 days and nights of intensive writing, I completed the script. Monday morning, I went downtown to Basil King's luxurious office and turned the script over to him. As I sat by his desk, watching him read it, it was hard to tell what he thought of it. His face was cold and impassive as he turned page after page. At last, he finished reading it and looked up.
It won't do, Mr. Phillips.
It won't do? Why not?
First of all, you haven't caught the spirit of Brad Barker in your dialogue. But more important, the plot is weak, and your murder gimmick won't work.
Well, I don't see why it won't. Would you mind explaining?
In this script, you have the victim, what's his name?
Charles Riker.
Yes, you have this fellow, Charles Riker, whose life has been threatened, barricade himself in a small cabin. All doors and windows are locked from the inside, and in addition, he's armed to the teeth and has a watchdog with him.
That's right.
2 days after this fellow Riker has barricaded himself, Brad Barker breaks into the cabin to find him dead. Dead of poison.
Yes.
Your gimmick is that the murderer, unable to get at Riker, has tapped the water pipe which ran from the spring to the cabin and poisoned the water.
Yes, well, what's wrong with that?
My dear fellow, don't you think that when Riker drew a glass of water in the cabin, he'd have tasted the poison in the water?
But I planted in the script that the poison was tasteless.
Oh, you did? Well, nevertheless, it won't work.
Oh, why not?
It just doesn't ring true. I don't feel it.
Why not?
We should stop asking why not. It's obvious that I don't like your gimmick, and if I don't like it, 15 million radio listeners won't like it. If our relationship is to continue, you must learn to accept constructive criticism. After all, my dear fellow, you have merely to look at the rating of the show to realize that I am never wrong. Furthermore, I should like to point out that at no time...
Is that you, Dave?
Yes, Julie?
How did King like your script? He didn't like it.
That's putting it mildly.
Oh, but that was a good script. One of the best you've ever done.
That's what I thought. But Mr. King didn't.
No wonder all his writers have nervous breakdowns. That man doesn't know what he wants.
Well, I'll give it one more try.
You mean you're still going to try to write for him?
Now, honey, there's no use in giving up so soon. Maybe once I get to know King's likes and dislikes, it won't be so tough to write for him.
Dave, I've never interfered before, but this is too much. I want you to call that egomaniac King up and tell him you're through.
Julie, I can't. I told King that I'd turn in another script by Thursday.
Oh, Dave.
I promise you that if he doesn't like the second script, I'll give up. Now, that's fair enough, isn't it? For the next 3 days and nights, I sweated over a new script. As I worked out the plot and gimmick, I tried to anticipate Basil King's every possible objection. Early Thursday morning, I went downtown to King's office and turned the script over to him. As he sat reading it, I began thinking of what I would say to him if he turned the show down. I would tell him quite firmly that it was obvious I wasn't the man to write the Brad Barker show. At last, King finished reading the script and looked up.
The plot, Mr. Phillips, isn't exactly new, and the dialogue needs rewriting here and there, but on the whole, it will do.
You mean you like it?
I wouldn't go so far as to say that I like it. Rather, let us say that it's acceptable. I trust, Mr. Phillips, that with time your scripts will improve. Good day.
I left Basil King's office that morning convinced that I would succeed where other writers had failed. I felt it would be just a question of time until I learned the workings of King's mind. But then I discovered, as so many of my predecessors had, that Basil King's likes and dislikes were not constant from day to day. What he told you on Thursday didn't hold true on Friday. Weeks went by, and for every show that King accepted, he'd reject two. He would criticize every script from beginning to end, tearing it to bits relentlessly and coldly. Any questioning of his criticism would lead to his redoubling his attack. One week slipped into another, and with each passing week, my hatred for Basil King grew. Life became a nightmare of deadlines, of writing endlessly with one eye constantly on the clock.
Darling, you just can't go on this way. You've got to quit.
Julie, we've been over this a dozen times already. We need the $600 a week to pay off our debts.
What good is that money if you have a nervous breakdown? Look at yourself. You've lost 15 pounds in these past weeks, and you're smoking 5 packs of cigarettes a day.
Please, Julie, I've had all I can take today. Now, let's not talk about it anymore.
You're not kidding me, Dave. The money is only part of it. It's your pride that won't let you quit.
My pride?
Yes. You can't stand the thought of quitting like the others did. You've got to prove that you're better than they are.
That's enough.
Well, it's the truth, isn't it? It's only your pig-headed pride that makes you go on when anyone with sense would quit.
I said that's enough.
Dave, we can't go on like this.
What do you mean?
I'm not going to stand around and watch you have a breakdown. You'll have to choose between Basil King and myself.
Now, look, Julie, you're upset. You don't know what you're saying.
I know perfectly well what I'm saying. I'm asking you to choose between Basil King and myself.
Stop trying to intimidate me. I told you before I'm not quitting, and I meant it.
All right, Dave. If that's the way you want it, I'm leaving.
Well, go ahead. No one's stopping you. Basil King may be able to make you quit, but not me. You call it pride? Okay. But I won't let a louse like him beat me. Somehow I'll get the better of him. You wait and see.
Goodbye, Dave.
I was so emotionally worn out the night you left me, Julie. I could scarce comprehend my loss at the time. There seemed to be only two people in the world. Basil King and myself. As I traveled back and forth day after day between my typewriter and King's office, my hatred for him increased 100-fold. Feeling my hatred for him, King redoubled his sadistic attack, sensing that I was determined not to quit. The weeks slipped by, and the nightmare continued. King insisted that I come to all rehearsals of the show so that the cast, as he put it, might see the culprit who wrote the script. It was at a rehearsal that I first met Mr. Pearson, president of the Zestful Chewing Gum Company. He was sitting in the control room, watching with great respect as Basil King rehearsed the cast.
No. My dear Miss Hunter, I assumed when I hired you that you were a radio actress. If I'm wrong, please enlighten me.
What did I do that was wrong, Mr. King?
I don't feel it. I just don't feel it. Try it again.
Rocky, you've got to give me a chance to explain. It wasn't my fault. Honest, it wasn't, Rocky.
Cut. Miss Hunter, you sound too young. I want you to age the role 1 year. Mind you, just 1 year.
Yes, Mr. King. Rocky, you've got to give me a chance to explain. It wasn't my fault. Honest, it wasn't. Rocky, don't!
Cut! Well, if that's the best you can give me, it will have to do. And Mr. Cooney, if you can't do better, I'll have to get another sound man. Take 15 minutes.
It's dreadful, Mr. King, the incompetence you have to put up with.
Yes, Mr. Pearson, it often amazes me that I've been as successful as I have. Speaking of incompetence, Mr. Pearson, I'd like you to meet the present writer of the show, Mr. Phillips.
How do you do, Mr. Phillips?
Glad to meet you, sir.
I have great hopes, Mr. Pearson, of making a radio writer out of Phillips.
Well, I'm sure if anyone can do it, you're that person, Mr. King.
Pardon me, Mr. King. Would you like to hear the commercial now?
Very well, Caruso. Go ahead.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, July 8th is the big day. In just 1 month, you'll be able to buy the latest discovery in chewing gum happiness, Pepso-Gum. Made by the Zestful Chewing Gum Company, Pepso-Gum is a new gum. A gum with a jailed-in flavor, designed to give you hours of chewing pleasure. Remember, the big day is July 8th, when Pepso-Gum will be on sale at all candy counters.
I don't feel it, Caruso. I want more emphasis. I want you to be so compelling that people will rush to their drugstores and place orders for this new gum.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Rehearse it a few more times, and I'll go over it with you later.
Yes, Mr. King.
Well, I guess I'll be getting back to the office, Mr. King.
Most kind of you to allow me to watch your rehearsal.
That's quite all right, Mr. Pearson.
It was a pleasure meeting you, Mr. Phillips. I assume that you'll be at the factory for next week's broadcast.
The factory? Yes, Phillips. We're doing the broadcast in the factory next week.
Yes, it's the company's 25th anniversary. You've no idea how our employees are looking forward to your broadcast. Yes, indeed. Well, good day, gentlemen.
Goodbye, Mr. Pearson. Mr. Phillips, I have here the script you turned in for next week's show. It won't do.
Why not?
There are so many things wrong with the script that it's hard to know where to begin. Let's start with your murder gimmick. You have the victim, I believe his name is Roger Roden.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, you have this fellow Roden picking up an envelope, licking the flap, and sealing the envelope. A minute later, he drops dead. Your gimmick is potassium cyanide powder has been mixed into the glue of the envelope flap.
Yes, and when Roden licked the flap, his tongue absorbed the poison.
It just won't stand up.
Why not?
For the simple reason that Roden's tongue wouldn't absorb enough potassium cyanide to kill him.
Oh, but it would. Potassium cyanide is a very potent poison. Just a few grains will kill a man.
Possibly, but I'm not convinced. And if you can't convince me, you won't convince our 16 million listeners. It just won't do.
It will work. I tell you, it will work.
I'm sorry, Mr. Phillips, but I don't agree. How soon can you have another script for me?
It was at that moment I knew I was going to murder Basil King. Perhaps all along it had been there, buried in my subconscious. For the first time in weeks, my hands stopped trembling, and I was able to think clearly of all that had happened. I had allowed Basil King, a man who was a psychopathic case, to drag me down to his own level. And what was worse, I had lost Julie. My stupid pride had driven the one person I loved away from me. Basil King would pay for that. And all the anguish he'd caused so many people. I thought of King's rejection of my potassium cyanide gimmick. And suddenly it came to me how ironic it would be if his death were brought about by potassium cyanide. Yes, the great man dying by a gimmick which he declared wouldn't work. Of course, I couldn't use the envelope flap, but there were other ways, and I would think of one. And that night, a plan began to form in my mind. A plan which was completed a week later as I was being shown through the zestful chewing gum factory by Mr. Morris, the superintendent of the factory. I had no idea the factory was so large, Mr. Morris. We seem to have walked miles.
I'm afraid you radio riders just aren't used to walking. Probably ride in taxi cabs all the time.
I guess you're right. Oh, what's this place?
This is the shipping room.
Oh.
Roundabout completes the tour. I reckon you've seen just about everything.
Right, all these boxes have Pepsi gum marked on the side of them.
That's right.
You're getting ready to distribute it all over the country?
Yeah, we're going to start shipping next week.
You know, I've heard so many announcements on the show about Pepsi gum that I'm curious. What's it taste like?
Well, it's hard to say. It has sort of a sharp flavor.
Sounds good. If you have any around, I'd like to taste it.
Well, I'd like to give you some, Mr. Phillips, but the old man, Mr. Pearson, is giving out strict orders not to give any of it out. Reckon he's trying to keep it from the public till the last minute.
Oh. But employees have tasted it, haven't they?
Oh, sure.
Well, Mr. Morris, you're looking at an employee right now. I do write radio shows for the company.
Yeah, I guess you are an employee after all. I reckon I can give you a pack of Pepsi gum. There you are.
Thanks. An attractive-looking pack of gum.
Yeah, you got to catch the customer's eye if you want to sell gum. Oh, what do you say if we go back to the auditorium?
Fine. I've seen the whole factory, and I've got a pack of the new Pepsi gum. What more could I ask for? A few minutes later, I left Mr. Morris in the auditorium, where the great Basil King was rehearsing the cast for the show. I walked across the street to the inn where we were staying and went up to my room. There, I took the pack of Pepsi gum from my pocket and withdrew one of the 5 sticks of gum. I very carefully removed the wrapper, and taking a dampened handkerchief, I wiped the candy powder off the stick of gum. It took but another minute to evenly sprinkle potassium cyanide powder over the wet stick of gum. In a very short time, the gum dried, and it was impossible to tell that the fine, powdery coating on it was a coating of death. I rewrapped the stick of gum and carefully inserted it in the center of the pack. When I arrived at the auditorium 10 minutes before airtime, the great man was relaxing in the control room. With him were Mr. Pearson and Bill, the broadcast engineer.
Oh, there you are, Mr. Phillips. I was afraid you were going to miss the broadcast.
Mr. Phillips may not be a good writer, but he is a punctual one, Mr. Pearson.
Mr. King, you're a great one for banter. You have a ready wit.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson.
Yeah, look at that auditorium. Completely packed. I've never seen our employees so enthusiastic, and it's all due to you, Mr. King. I hope you'll say a few words to them after the broadcast.
Why, I shall be delighted to.
Can you spare a minute, Mr. King?
What is it?
Do you remember that script I turned in a week ago with the potassium cyanide gimmick?
You mean where the victim licked the envelope flap and was poisoned? Yes, I remember that deplorable script. What about it?
Well, I was wondering, what if we were to switch the potassium cyanide to something else? Instead of the envelope, perhaps the cyanide might be sprinkled on a piece of candy or something like that.
No. It would never work. I don't feel it.
You really don't think it would, huh?
Certainly not. Really, Mr. Phillips, you're showing less and less imagination from week to week.
Well, I just thought I'd mention it.
Hey, Mr. Phillips, that pack of gum you have, isn't that the new Pepsi gum?
Yes, Mr. Pearson, that's right.
But I gave strict orders that it wasn't to be given out. How did you get it?
Yes, how did you get it?
I found this pack in the shipping room. I hope you don't mind my having taken it.
Well, no. After all, we are just one big family.
You see, Mr. Pearson, I've heard so much about the new Pepsi gum that I was curious to find out what it tasted like.
Oh, what did you think of it?
Well, I haven't tried it yet, but I guess this is as good a time as ever. Have a piece?
Don't mind if I do. Thank you.
What about you, Mr. King?
No, thank you.
You mean you aren't even curious to know what Mr. Pearson's new gum tastes like?
Please, Mr. King, I'm very eager to know what you think of the flavor. I have great respect for your opinion.
Very well, Mr. Pearson.
Here you are, Mr. King.
Thank you.
I understand it has a sharp flavor, Mr. Pearson.
Yes, but delightfully so. That's delicious. Now, I have a feeling that Pepsi gum is going to be a tremendous success. Go ahead, Mr. King. Put it in your mouth. I'm anxious to have your opinion.
Yes. Yes. Certainly has a sharp taste.
Oh, not that sharp. Keep chewing it. 1 minute to airtime, Mr. King.
Thank you.
I watched the great man, Basil King, chewing a stick of Pepsi gum. I knew that he found the flavor a bit sharp. And if Mr. Pearson hadn't been watching him, he would have spat it out. Yes, Mr. King didn't like the flavor, but with the sponsor looking on, he had to continue chewing. I watched the minute hand sweep around the clock. In 30 seconds, we would be on the air, and according to my calculations, Mr. King would keel over 15 seconds after we were on the air.
Stand by.
I'll give you the go-ahead, Mr. King.
Very well.
Coming up. Go ahead.
The Zestful Chewing Gum Company presents Brad Barker, Private Eye. Conceived, produced, directed, and edited by Basil King.
My dear fellow, the monitor is too high. That's it. Take it down. You engineers just don't know. Oh! My heart!
Brad
Mr.
Barker,
King,
Private
what's wrong?
My heart!
Quick, catch him.
I've got him, Mr. Pearson. You'd better get a doctor. It looks like a heart attack.
Yes, I'll get one immediately.
Bill, turn down the monitor. Just do the best you can.
Okay, Dave. You take care of him, and I'll take care of the show.
And soon there will be a fresh flavor added to the Zestful Chewing Gum
King,
Company.
can you hear me?
Yes, get a doctor.
Do you remember the potassium cyanide gimmick?
Potassium cyanide.
Yes. I just want you to know you're wrong. It does work. That's why you're dying.
What?
That stick of gum I gave you. It was covered with potassium cyanide powder.
No, get a doctor.
A doctor can't help you. You're going to die.
No,
Brad Barker, Private Eye.
Poor Mr. King.
Small, dingy office overlooking the harbor. On the door is a letter.
You just forgot one thing.
Waterfront Protective Association.
Murder is my business. Julie, darling, that was a year ago, and I've never ceased to regret your leaving me. I'm writing this in the hope that you will find it in your heart to forgive me. I admit that it was my stupid pride that wouldn't allow me to acknowledge defeat at Basil King's hands. But he's gone now, Julie. And if you could only see your way clear to start all over.
Hi, hello, Mr. Phillips. Remember me? John Pearson?
Mr. Pearson?
Yes. You remember Mr. Morris, my factory superintendent?
Hello?
We happened to be driving past and thought it'd be a nice gesture to drop in and find out how you were getting along.
Please, I've got to finish this letter to my wife, Julia. I've got to finish it.
Doesn't seem to be getting any better, does it, Mr. Pearson?
No, it doesn't. Look at all these letters scattered around. Must be at least 100. They're all addressed to his wife.
What a pity, huh?
Yes, I'll never forget that day that Basil King died of a heart attack. I came back to the control room to find poor Mr. Phillips crying hysterically over the body. He never has gotten over the shock of Basil King's death. What a wonderful friendship that was.
This is the mysterious traveler. Did you enjoy our little trip? It's too bad about Dave Phillips, isn't it? His mind snapped in his hour of triumph. 16 weeks of life with Basil King proved to be just too much for him, mentally. As Basil King used to say, being a radio writer calls for a weak mind. However, it does seem that Dave Phillips did get in the last word. For Basil King died of a gimmick he claimed would never work. And the police, oddly enough, never did suspect it was murder. Now, I recall another case in which a young man awoke to find himself dead, and he decided... you have to get off here. I'm sorry. I'm sure we'll meet again. I take this same train every week at this same time.
You have just heard The Mysterious Traveler, a series of dramas of the strange and terrifying. All characters in tonight's story were fictitious, and any resemblance to the names of actual persons was purely coincidental. In tonight's cast were Maurice Tarplin, Eric Dressler, John Sylvester, Shirley Blank, and Richard Coogan. Original music was played by Paul Taubman. Sound was by George Cooney, broadcast engineer Walter Payne. Mysterious Traveler is written, produced, and directed by Robert A. Arthur and David Kogan.
Well, now, I don't know about you, but I'm ready for a little catnap, as it were. What's that? Oh, yes, of course. I figure we listen to a little record and you can be on your merry way. I do hope I get to see you again before the big holiday. I do so love the holidays now that I have a friend like you. Someone to spend a little bit of time with, every so often. Someone to share a mutual interest. It really does mean the world to me. Now, before I let you go, before you hike your way home, before you cross the streets and the railroad tracks and head over the bridge and through the river to grandmother's house you go, as it were, please just take a moment as you lay your head on that warm pillow in your safe, dark room. As your eyes begin to get heavy and you head to that land of Nod, take a deep breath, exhale, and just for a moment, a quick, wondrous moment, be thankful for what you have. I'll see you soon.